morning.
Good morning.
Please rise either and bow your spirit and join with me in our call to worship, which is printed in the bulletin. Rejoice, folks. Jesus is in our midst.
Feed us, Jesus, and fill us with wealth.
Be glad, friends. Jesus has bread and fish to share.
Free us, Jesus, from pursuing food that does not satisfy.
Sing for joy, people of God.
God gathers up the pieces of our lives, and nothing may be lost. Thanks be to God.
Please remain standing as together we sing our opening hymn, Just As I Am, which is number 488 in the hymnal. Let us now join our voices in the prayer of confession found in your bulletin. Shall we pray? O God, we come believing that what we have will never be enough. We come fearful of sharing with others because there are so many in need. We come overwhelmed by the hunger of this world, overwhelmed by the suffering in this world, overwhelmed by the seemingly endless violence and greed of this world. We come clinging to our meager lunches. Bless them and us. Share them and us. Amen. Friends, hear and proclaim the good news.
In Jesus Christ we are forgiven. Thanks be to God.
Please join with me now in praying the prayer of illumination printed in your bulletin. Shall we pray? Lord, we do not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from your mouth. Make us hunger for your heavenly food. May it nourish us today in the ways of eternal life. Amen. Our Old Testament reading today comes from Psalm 5, verses 1 through 8, found on page 466 of your Pew Bible. Listen now to the reading of the Holy Scripture. Give ear to my words, O Lord. Give heed to my groaning.
Hearken to the sound of my cry, my King and my God. For to thee do I pray. O Lord, in the morning thou dost hear my voice. In the morning I prepare a sacrifice for thee and watch. For thou art not a God who delights in wickedness. Evil may not sojourn with thee. The boastful may not stand before thine eyes. Thou hatest all evildoers. Thou destroyest those who speak lies. The Lord abhors bloodthirsty and deceitful men. But I, through the abundance of thy steadfast love, will enter thy house. I will worship toward thy holy temple in the fear of thee. Lead me, O Lord, in thy righteousness because of my enemies. Make thy way straight before me. Our gospel reading this morning is from the 6th chapter of John, verses 24 through 35, and can be found on page 928 of the Pew Bible. So when the people saw that Jesus was not there, nor his disciples, they themselves got into the boats and went to Capernaum, seeking Jesus. When they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, Rabbi, when did you come here? Jesus answered them, Truly, truly, I say to you, you seek me, not because you saw signs, because you ate your fill of the loaves. Do not labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give to you. For on him has God the Father set his seal. When they said to him, What must we do to be doing the works of God? Jesus answered them, This is the work of God, and you believe in him whom he has sent. So they said to him, Then what sign do you do, that we may see and believe you? What work do you perform? Our fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, as it is written. He gave them bread from heaven to eat. Jesus said to them, Truly, truly, I say to you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven. My Father gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is that which comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. They said to him, Lord, give us this bread always. Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
We will now sing the first verse of Jesus Loves Me, and you come forward for their special message.
You ate last night, right? And you ate last night. Did you have chicken nuggets? Is that what you had? No? You don't remember. Yeah, okay. You ate last night. You three guys said you ate last night. But then you ate breakfast again this morning. Right? Well, why? You were hungry. You were hungry. But you just ate last night. Why did you need to eat again this morning? Okay, you're burning lots of calories at your age, so yeah, you do need quite a bit of food. I would hate to have to feed all four of you guys, let me tell you. That would be tough. Right? Especially that one. He does? Okay, all right. Obviously, we eat our fill at a meal, and then it's not very long after that until we start feeling hungry again and think, hey, I'm going to eat again. I'm going to have something else to eat, you know? We do that. Why? Why do we eat all the time? Like 2 or 3 times, sometimes 4 or 5 times a day. Why are we always eating? God said so. God said so. Okay, usually that'll work as an answer. Very good. Yeah, we know that for our bodies to function, we have to have food, right? Yeah, it does have to do with biology, our makeup. Yeah, we have to eat because eating gives us the nutrition, it gives us the minerals, it gives us the vitamins, it gives us all the things that our body needs to continue to function. And if we stopped eating for a long period of time, we basically would stop functioning. If we stopped eating, period, we could not survive. We would die eventually. We have to have that nourishment. So, you know, regardless of what you had for supper, or whether you had supper or not last night, you still wanted something to eat this morning. You're going to want something to eat for lunch. You're going to want something to eat later on, because that's the way God created us. So then, in essence, that's your answer was right. Okay, good. That's the way that God created us, that as human beings, we need to take in food as nourishment. And fortunately, God also created lots of other things that provide food for us, for nourishment. And also, fortunately for you guys, your parents continue to provide good food for you, for your nourishment as well, whether you eat it or not. I don't know, that's another issue. The scripture that we heard this morning, read from John, it was a time that took place shortly after when Jesus fed the 5,000. Do you remember that big miracle up on the Mount Sinai? There were 5,000 people there, gathered there, sort of impromptu, so they didn't bring food with them. They didn't have food for them, so they found this little guy that had a few loaves and a few fishes in his basket. And Jesus blessed that, and he started passing it out to all 5,000. And all 5,000 people ate from that one little basket of loaves and fishes. And then they gathered up the leftovers, and there were 12 baskets of leftovers after 5,000 people had eaten everything they wanted to. A tremendous miracle. It's one of the most often cited miracles of Jesus in the Bible that took place. Well, this was shortly after that, actually only a day or two after that. And there's a huge crowd continuing to follow Jesus around, hoping that he's going to feed them again. Because they're hungry again. Even if they had been there a day or two before and they ate everything until they were completely stuffed, they're now hungry again. They're following Jesus around. They're hoping for another miracle. And Jesus makes these strange statements to them. He said, I could provide more food for you, but it's even more important that you get nourishment for your soul. Jesus said, I actually am the bread of life. And if you will believe in me, I will provide for your soul forever. You know, we eat food on this earth as human beings so that we won't die. But we know that someday that we will die. We will no longer have this body as we know it. We will be dead, and our soul will live on. And Jesus says, I will provide nourishment for that soul forever, because I am the bread of life. That's one of the reasons that we come to church. It's one of the reasons that we have Sunday school, that we have special events and things where we learn about the Bible, where we have confirmation. All you guys have been in confirmation with me, where you learn more things about God and about Jesus. That's a way to nourish your soul. So you're here this morning to receive nourishment for your soul. You're hearing the words of Jesus. We see the words of Jesus every morning when we look up here, because Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And if you follow me, you will have eternal life for your soul. So that's what Jesus is trying to say to us. And he's saying there's special food that I'm going to provide for you. And he provides for us any time that we listen to his word, that we open up the Bible and we read it for ourselves, or we listen to what others have to say about who God is and who Jesus is. So that provides nourishment for our soul. But I know you guys also need nourishment for your bodies. So I did bring something. I brought one of my favorite foods. To get one of my favorite foods, I had to go see Nicole at the Sweet Things Sweet Shop. And she provided me with some little baskets of some of my favorite foods. So you can have a little box here of chocolates. Let me give you my advice on chocolates from the Sweet Shop. You know, chocolates, particularly in the summertime, can be really messy and everything. You know, you can get them on your fingers and all over the place and make a mess with them. So if you're going to eat chocolates, particularly in church, my suggestion is you grab that piece of chocolate and you plop the whole thing in your mouth. The whole thing. That way you don't get chocolate everywhere else. It'll fit in your mouth. You know, they'll fit in your mouth. Just plop the whole thing in, and you don't have to worry about making a mess anywhere. So that was my word of advice on eating chocolate before you come this morning. Let's stand and have a prayer, gentlemen, before you leave. And thanks again for coming up, sharing in the youth moment this morning, since we had no children. Shall we pray? Gracious God, we give you thanks for allowing us to be here and to nourish our souls. We ask that you open our hearts and minds so that we can listen to what you have for us this morning. And I give you thanks this day for Xavier and for Jared and for Logan and for Jacob and for the ministry that they give to each of us as they are here with their presence on Sunday mornings. It's in your holy name we pray. Amen. Okay, let me set the scene for you. You're going to have to get this in your mind, okay? Here's the scene. It is 1971. 1971. You remember, well, I'm sure that you don't remember it all. Oh, yeah, Jacob, yeah. Okay, it's 1971. It's a Saturday afternoon. It's raining outside. So Stevie, who was 14, 15 years old, no longer called Stevie at this time, is now going by Steve, cannot be outside practicing basketball because it's raining, and it's raining hard. 1971, Saturday afternoon. So Steve goes into the house, and he walks over to the television to turn it on because there were no such thing as remotes at that time. You had to walk to the television to turn it on. You had to flip through the channels and try to find the 3 channels, which one of the 3 you wanted to watch at that particular time. And Steve turned it to this channel, and he plopped down on the TV, and he's still waiting for the TV screen to come on because those bulbs had to warm up and heat up. And, it took a minute or 2 for the TV to actually come on. But when the TV comes on, Steve realizes he's got here just at the right time because across the top of the TV screen, he sees an animated train chugging across, and he hears the announcer start to say, "It's Soul Train!" And then you cue the music, and we start hearing the music of the Temptations or the Jackson 5 or Gloria Gaynor or Aretha Franklin or some popular black group at that time, hip-hop music or rhythm or blues, whatever they're singing, and you see all the young black kids all dressed very nicely with their big afros, dancing around out there on the dance floor. And Steve is sitting there soaking up his first experience of what soul is all about, according to black culture in the United States in the 1970s, anyway. The only time that Steve had really heard soul talked about before this time was in church. And the music he heard in church didn't sound anything like the music that I was hearing on Soul Train, that show that actually started in 1971 and had a run of 35 years. When it went off the air, it was the longest running television show of that ever. Now it's been surpassed by a couple of other shows since that time, but it didn't go off until 2006, so anybody in here, anybody in here could have actually seen Soul Train at some time or the other. Don Cornelius, he was the MC for a long, long time. He's the one that started the show. And it featured all these black groups and talked with them and had all kinds of discussions about it. But I started to learn, I started to get this impression of what the black soul culture in the United States was about from that show. That was my experience with it. So soul music became a part of my vernacular. And of course, it wasn't long after that until you heard about soul food. And you heard about the entire soul experience of the blacks and their culture in the United States in the early 70s when I was just coming of age. So soul food was something that I thought was very interesting that I heard about. And of course, I had heard this passage in church for years before this time and thinking about, well, Jesus, he's really talking about a different kind of soul food that we think about in the black vernacular in this country of soul food. Jesus is saying that he can provide for us nourishment for our souls. And every time I think about soul food, that refrain from Soul Train, that opening from Soul Train, and I didn't do it justice, I can't get high enough. He starts way up there, the announcer, and comes all the way down to do the Soul Train. But it makes me think how we, throughout our lives, begin to associate different things with sometimes the same topics and the same words. Going from soul food in the black experience in this country to soul food that Jesus is talking about is quite a switch. So it made me look a little harder at what is this soul food that Jesus is talking about, and how does it apply to us? Food is such an important part of our lives. I was talking to the guys about. You know, it dominates our lives in time. And Jesus said there's something more important than that, than the food that you take on for nourishment of your body. There is a soul food for your soul. And Jesus said, I am it. I am the bread of life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. So we're going to look at this idea of Jesus' take on soul food in our message this morning, which will be longer than 5 minutes. I've probably already gone over 5 minutes. Oh, you were done at this point last week. Very good. All right. Shall we pray? Gracious God, may the words of my lips and the meditations of our hearts and minds be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. At this point next week, you will have been done for like almost 3 hours. Okay. Some of you know, some of you may not. I have some land in northern Missouri where I go to deer hunt every fall. If you've noted my routine in these past 5 years, I always take a Sunday or two off in November during deer season. And where I go is up to Memphis, Missouri. I have a good friend that lives up there. He owns this land with me along with his brother. And the three of us and other friends and my son sometimes, my father used to go, some of their sons and friends, whatever, we all go and we stay at Tom's house. And he opens his whole basement up, and that just becomes a big dormitory for all of us. And we sleep down in Tom's basement, and we stay at his house. And in Memphis, of course, we don't expect, the first year or two, Teresa, Tom's wife, actually fixed food for us. But we kept getting more of us and bigger, and we stayed longer, and we couldn't ask Teresa Kennedy to do that. So we got to go out and find us some food to eat in the evenings. And in Memphis, Missouri, how many of you have ever been to Memphis, Missouri? Not too many of you. Memphis it's about half the size of St. Genevieve. It has around 2,000 people in Memphis, Missouri. And it only has 3 or 4 places to eat in town or anywhere around the town. You've got the bowling alley. Okay, the bowling alley, which is actually a bowling alley, and you go there and they have a little bar and snack area and whatever, and you can go get sandwiches. They have good pork tenderloin sandwiches at the bowling alley. So you got the bowling alley. There is actually, I can't even think, it's either Pizza Hut or Pizza Inn, whichever one it is. That's the only chain type of food place that they have in Memphis, Missouri. So you can go get pizza if you want to do that. There's Little Mom's Diner, of course, a typical Little Mom's Diner that they have there, but they don't even serve an evening meal, so you can't get an evening meal there. All you get is breakfast and lunch at Mom's Diner. And then there is Keith's Restaurant. Keith's Restaurant. Keith's is the spot in Memphis, Missouri, and actually for a lot of area around there, this particular restaurant is very famous for its steaks. It's thick, juicy, tender steaks, which are local farm-raised meat from all around there. And they're famous for their homemade pies. Now, how you get homemade pie in a restaurant, you know, it's always been a mystery to me, but they're famous and they're good. All the pies that they have there, they're delicious. The very first time that we went to Memphis and stayed and we went to eat at Keith's, it was a treat. And there were 8 of us or so that went into Keith's. We actually had to wait in line to get in there. The busy season in Memphis, Missouri is deer season. So, you know, we had to wait in line. It's the only time you have to have a line at Keith's is during deer season. And we went in and I ordered a thick, juicy steak. And I couldn't believe how big the steak was that they brought out. And the baked potatoes and the rolls and everything that goes with the steak. And I mean, I stuffed myself. But then you get to the end of the meal, you have to have a piece of pie. Because they're known for their homemade pies. And you order a piece of pie and you go, okay, I'm going to get a little. Oh, no, it's a huge piece of, it's like half the pie that they bring out to you. And I mean, you're sitting there and you go, oh, I got to eat this. And you start eating it, it's really good, you know. And I mean, I'm down in the whole thing. And I mean, I finished that piece of pie. And I didn't think I was ever going to be able to get up from that chair. I mean, have you ever been that full? You've been so stuffed. You have been such a glutton with this particular meal that you can hardly move. I mean, that was the situation I was in. And I'm thinking, Rick, I'm going to be sleeping all day tomorrow. I'm going to go out there. I'm not going to be able to do anything. And you know, we did. We finally made it back to Tom's house. Did get up the next morning. We went deer hunting. And I mean, we had a nice deer hunt. It was a great day. I can't remember everything that happened, but anyway, it was a great day. And you know what? By 6 o'clock that evening, I was ready to go back to Keith's again. Oh my gosh, you know? And I thought, boy, if I do this every night, I'm going to look like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Wait, I do look like, oh. But anyway, whether we eat at a 4-star restaurant or some fast food place, we're going to eventually get hungry again because we are never satisfied. We need to eat to survive. Here in this passage from John, Jesus is telling people by the sea, he's telling them something quite different. He was saying that food may fill their stomachs, but it will never fill their souls. He just fed those 5,000 folks with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. However, 2 days later, they were hungry again. They were following him, hoping for another miracle. Jesus had satisfied their hunger for food on Mount Sinai, but now he tells them that what they really need is soul food. Nourishment for their soul. And Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. How can Jesus do that? How can he satisfy our hunger and the thirst of our soul? What does he mean by this soul food? When I ate that huge steak and that baked potato, that big piece of pie at Keith's that night, I thought, why did I do this to myself? I bet you've been there before, at least some of you. You know, why didn't I just order a salad? They have good salads there too, you know. But like most Americans, and most people probably, I have a passion for food. I enjoy good food. And you know, in our society, we'll even drive great distances to eat at our favorite restaurant, at our favorite place to eat. You know, and I don't even go into how many of those we could do. We spend good money for our food. We want a good atmosphere, we want good service, and we're willing, even during deer season in Memphis, Missouri, to stand in line and to wait for that good food just so we can eat what we want. Let's be honest, we are very passionate about food in our society. And I believe that what Jesus was trying to do in this passage, he's trying to get his listeners to be passionate about matters of faith. Just as passionate as we are about food, why can't we be that passionate about our faith as well? He wants us to desire the food for our soul in the way that we desire food for our stomachs. Passion, having a passion to do something, to accomplish something. To what extreme are we willing to go to satisfy our passion in life? A story that actually occurred in October 1958 to a man named Legson Kayira and he was from Nyasaland, Africa, in the remotest areas of Central Africa. And he was determined to get a college education in the United States of America. This was in 1958. He received all the education he could receive in the small town where he lived in Central Africa. And he had heard about the United States of America. He said, I'm going to go and get a college education in the United States of America. So with a 5-day supply of food, a small axe for protection, a blanket, a Bible, and a copy of the book The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, Lakeson set out for Cairo, Egypt. He would have to journey 3,000 miles to get to Cairo, and from there hopefully be able to somehow get on to the United States. He was determined to get that education in a college in the United States. His hero was Abraham Lincoln, and he also wanted to be like Booker T. Washington, who he knew as a great reformer and as an author, and he'd read some of Washington's things. He wanted to serve humankind. He wanted to make a difference in the world. But he had no money. He had no idea what college he might attend or even what colleges existed in the United States of America, even if he ever made it to the United States. But Lakeson had a passion to pursue his dream of getting an education. Although he was impoverished, he had been given many books from the missionaries in the town where he lived, and these had inspired him to seek his goal of getting a college education in the United States. So he started out on his journey, and after 5 days, he had no food left. He had only covered 25 miles. Yet, if he turned back, he would have given up his dream. So he didn't turn back. He forged ahead. Sometimes he walked along with strangers, but mostly he walked by himself. He passed through many villages. Some were very friendly to him, some were not. He occasionally did find some work and shelter, but frequently he just slept out under the stars. At one time, a fever struck him, and he was attended to by strangers, people he had never met before, that got him through that illness. Many times he became discouraged, but then he would turn to his 2 books, the Bible and Pilgrim's Progress, which would renew his passion, would renew his faith. He continued on his journey, and after 15 months, he'd been walking for 15 months, he reached Kampala, Uganda. That was only 1/3 of the way to Cairo. He had made it 1,000 miles in 15 months. He remained in Kampala for 6 months because he had learned several things by this time, that he was going to have to prepare himself a little more. And he spent his time working at odd jobs and trying to save up some money. And he spent his spare time in the library in Kampala, Uganda. In his library readings, he learned about various colleges in the United States. And he read about all kinds of colleges, and he was specifically looking at ones along the East Coast, because he knew that's where he was going to go if he ever made it to the United States. And he started writing to the deans of those colleges, describing who he was and saying, I want to go to college in the United States of America. Can you help me? The dean at Skagit Valley College in Mount Vernon, Washington, was impressed with his determination. And he wrote back to him, and he offered him a full scholarship to his college and a job if he could get there. All he had to do was get there. Still had 2,000 miles to get to Cairo, and then he had to get across the ocean, of course. So lots of obstacles stood in his way. He also had to acquire a visa, he had to get a passport, so he had to have verification of his birth, which he didn't have any of that kind of paperwork with him. Fortunately, the missionaries in his home village helped to push through all this paperwork, to go through all the necessary channels, and Lakeson, undeterred by all the obstacles in front of him, he went on toward Cairo, believing that somehow he would raise the money for passage to the United States. He was so confident that he spent the last little bit of his money on a new pair of shoes. It was actually his first ever pair of shoes. so that he would have shoes to wear when he went to college. Months passed, and word of his journey now began to spread among lots of different groups of people. He reached Khartoum, and he was sort of becoming a legend back in Mount Vernon, Washington at Skagit Valley College at that time, because he continued to write of his journeys to the dean of the college there. And the dean was sharing his story with the students of the college and been picked up by local papers as well. And that story had been shared around in the United States. Well, in Mount Vernon, Washington, where Skagit Valley College was located, people there raised enough money for Legson's airfare from Cairo to Washington. So after 2 years, more than 2 years after beginning his journey, he arrived at Skagit Valley College. All he had with him were his 2 books, the Bible and the Pilgrim's Progress. 4 years later, Legson graduated from Skagit, but his passion to go even further stayed with him. He became a professor of political science at Cambridge University in England, and he became a very well-known author. His name, once again, is Legson Kayira, K-A-Y-A-I-R-A, and he wrote about that journey, he wrote about his life, and he wrote about that passion that he had to do that and what it meant for him. He was passionate about what he wanted to do, and he was able to accomplish it. To understand Jesus as the bread of life or as soul food is to be passionate about our faith. It is to seek after God's Word, and it's to follow His teachings. To come to Him means that we have to rearrange our lives and shift some of our priorities around. Wow, that's tough. We've got to rearrange our lives. We've got to shift our priorities around if we're really serious about being passionate about our faith, about following our Lord and Savior. To come to Jesus means often that we've got to leave some things behind. Now, Legson left his entire life behind. Some people do that. I don't think God calls most of us to leave our entire lives behind, but there are things in our lives that we often have to leave behind. To be persons of passion about our faith means that we make sacrifices. It means that we truly have to have an appetite for the bread of life. And the bread of life, my friends, is Jesus Christ. To understand Jesus as the bread of life, or to understand Jesus as soul food, is to trust. And my friends, trust involves risk. It always does. If you put your trust in something or someone, it always involves risk on your part. Trust involves behavior that causes us to act in extraordinary ways. Ways that we would not act if we did not trust. Imagine the trust that Legson must have had as he journeyed across Africa. Here's a very short exercise in trust. Imagine for a moment that you are far away in a lonely desert. Okay, you're in the desert. I don't know why you're there. But you can see before you a water pump sticking up in the sand. You're by yourself. You're a solitary traveler. Your canteen is empty. And you are thirsty when you come upon that pump. Now, tied to the pump is a handwritten sign put there by someone else. The sign reads, "I have buried a bottle of water to prime the pump." And it tells you where that water is buried in the sand. Don't drink any of the water in the bottle. Pour half of it in the pump to wet the leather. Then wait a few minutes and then pour the other half into the pump to prime the pump, and then you pump the pump and it'll give you water. And this well has never gone dry, but the pump must be primed for the water to come up. Have faith. Believe. When you're through drawing the water, all that you want, fill the bottle and bury it in the sand for the next travel. What would you do? Would you dig the water bottle up out of the sand? Take a big drink and pour it in your canteen?
and go on? Or could you have faith in the person that had written that sign and pour every drop of the water in that water bottle into that pump at 2 different times and prime that pump? When you trust, you take a risk. You take a risk, both for yourself and for the next person who's going to pass in the same way that you're passing. When you trust, you have to take a risk. To accept the life-giving bread of Jesus is to trust in God. It means we have the faith that God will provide all that we will need. It also means that by trusting in God, we will be satisfied. At some point, we will be satisfied. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow, next week, next year, or in this physical body in this lifetime. But God promises at some time we will be satisfied. You know, when I think back on it, I probably should have passed on that piece of pie when I was at Keith's that night long ago, and I've passed on it many times since then, let me tell you, because it's just too much. And it seems that whenever I indulge in fattening food, I feel guilty. Just for a second, but I do feel guilty. You know, a low-carb, fat-free diet would be good for me, as it would probably for most of us. But that isn't what Jesus is promoting here. That isn't what Jesus is talking about. To receive the bread of life, to receive Jesus' soul food, is to receive the forgiveness that Jesus offers to you. Now, perhaps you've made some decisions in your life that have done more harm than good. I know I have. Perhaps you've had some wonderful dreams or goals, but you gave up because you were afraid or the odds seemed too great. I know I've been in that situation as well. Perhaps your faith, or at least you think your faith, is weak. And so to really follow after the ways of Jesus, to follow the way, the truth, and the life, that just seems impossible. Well, my friends, the forgiveness that Jesus offers to you today enables you to move forward. Forgiveness makes it possible to erase the past and to begin again. That's what forgiveness is all about. Beginning again. So today we're all offered the life-giving bread of Jesus. We are offered God's soul food. That's why we're here. That's why we came. To receive some of God's soul food. Well, God's offering it to you. God is offering you forgiveness for everything in your past, and God only asks of you a passion for God. A passion for your faith. So today, may we all be passionate about our faith. May we trust in God, and may we truly accept the forgiveness that Christ offers to us. Thanks be to God. Amen. Let us now respond to our word this morning by rising either in body or in spirit and singing our hymn of response, which is number 583 in your hymn. Shall we rise together and sing?
Sing you as a precious jewel.
of the Apostles' Creed, which you find printed in your bulletin this morning. I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Ghost, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, dead, and buried. He descended into hell. The third day he rose again from the dead. He ascended into heaven, and sitteth on the right hand of God the Father Almighty. From thence he shall come to judge the quick and the dead. I believe in the Holy Ghost, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and life everlasting. Amen. We are now at that point in our service where we have the opportunity to give of the many ways in which we have been blessed in our lives. So as our ushers come forward and we participate in our special music this morning, please be generous in your gifts.
Amen.
Gracious God, we offer these gifts up to you now, and we ask that you truly make them a blessing to others throughout this world, so that your kingdom may be spread, so that your word may be heard, so that all may be blessed. It is in your holy name we pray. Amen. You may be seated. Let us now pause for a moment of silence as we prepare our hearts and minds for prayer. Shall we pray? Gracious and almighty God, we come to you now in prayer. And in prayer we bring our hopes and our dreams, we bring our suffering and our pain. All that we are, we now bring to you in prayer. We give thanks for your presence here with us. We thank you for being a listening ear. We thank you for being a steadying hand in our lives. We are thankful for your support, for your guidance, for your love that is extended to us, and especially for your forgiveness. We ask now that your love be extended to all those who are in need this day, those who are ill or bedridden, those who are suffering or who are in pain, those who are subject to violence and to danger, those who are grieving for loss, and especially for those who are hungry and thirsty of their soul. May your grace move us and others to tend to all those in need, so that they may find comfort this day. Continue to be with us now as together we pray the prayer that Jesus taught us, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Let us now rise one last time, either in body or in spirit, and sing together our closing hymn, that old favorite, Amazing Grace, which is number 343 in your hymn. Shall we rise and sing together? Amazing Grace. We should sing that more often because God's grace is amazing. And God offers forgiveness to each and every one of us so that we may begin anew this day under God's amazing grace. So I hope that this day your soul has been nourished and you found some refreshment here this morning. Please remember that next Sunday, Jour de Fête, we will have worship. It will be at 8:15 in the morning. I hope you can make it, but if you cannot, I certainly do understand. Do remember you're invited also to Mary Glanford's house at 9:30. If you want to be there for a good Bible study and good fellowship, you are welcome to be there next Sunday morning as well. Wherever life may find you this week, whether you're participating in, working for, or a part of Jour de Fête, or whether you're not, and you're staying as far away from that as you possibly can. However you find yourself this week, remember that God is always there with you. Because God is always above us. God is always below us. God always goes behind us. God always goes before us. God always stands right beside us. And most importantly of all, God is inside us. That's why. So go in peace this day, my friends. And remember, less than 5 minutes next Sunday.